Thanks for tuning back in. This is the Lost Mountain Man. I'm Aaron. This is the Articat 450 2011. If you remember from the second episode, we got this thing put back together. We got it up and running. And today, I want to put on a winch. I want to put on a snow plow. And it's snowing out, so I'm hoping I could get it out there and give it a test drive. And come along and we'll see what we could do. Already, I simply welded and tacked on my front mount for the winch. Or I'm sorry, not for the winch, but for the snowplow. If this works how I want it to, I'll modify this bracket a little bit. I'm going to cut it a little shorter and then obviously finish up the welds on it. But right now it's just tacked on there so I can test it, make sure that that's the plow I want on this machine, and make sure that the winch can handle it and all that good stuff. So come along, let's get it figured out. Alright, so the winch I got is a Moto Alliance. I think I got this on eBay. I think it was right around $100, 120 bucks. It's a 3,000 pound winch for ATVs. Comes with the wiring harness, the switch, so you can put it up at the throttle or the brake to activate that. A couple accessories, your safety line, some zip ties, hardware, hook, and here she is. Midnight Series by Moto Alliance, MD 3000. Synthetic rope. Appears to be pretty nice. You got engage and free spool. And I measured this up with the dimensions online. And it should fit right inside this housing here. We got the relay that we'll be mounting. A couple other electrical doodads. And a plate, which I don't believe I'm going to need this, but it's nice to have. Okay, let's go ahead and set this thing in here. A little bit of a tight squeeze getting it in there, but it looks like it fits perfect. And that's beautiful. Our mounting holes match right up. So, get our hardware here. Alright, so I got 4 bolts and a lock nut. before. Okay, see what size that is. 13 millimeter. Snug down. Okay. So now we can reach in here and we can disengage that. And put that little zip tie. And as you can see, we can free spool out now. This also comes with a front aluminum plate. I forgot what these are called, but keeps it from fraying the line. Gives it a nice, purty look too. Those will fit. Alright, so it came with these, that thicker head that goes in there, but this quad already comes threaded. And these are too big for it, so I'd either have to drill that out and use the provided nut, or figure out a way to use these smaller ones, which maybe if I thread a nut all the way up on this to give me that space. Yeah, I could get that. That's good there. And you can't even tell I have a backer nut on there. Just like that. hook on there. Shorter. And we're just making a little hook with that cotter pin. So, okay, let's do some electrical. So let's see where we can mount this. We'll figure that out here in a minute. All right, here's our blue and yellow. This goes up to the winch. Let's see the best place to run this. Well, I don't know how much of that you missed. My card ran out of space and I didn't realize it. So here's where we're at. I do have some conduit pulled. I got our yellow and blue set down to the winch. I got red and black ready for the battery. Mounted the control or the relay right here. And next, we're going to pull power for the switch, for the forward and reverse on that motor. And how that works is when you switch this, all that does is changes the polarity, positive and negative, going to that motor. And that's what has that thing turn forward and backwards. So let's get this ran. So for our ignition switch, should be fairly simple. In fact, it'd be real simple if I just look at the wiring diagram. What this is showing is A, B, C, D. There's four pins in there. See? And it's starting with this top one, top left, A, B, C, D. Okay, so we're off again. We're going A and B. Open. C and D, open. Open across all points. Now we're going to go to on. Now we have a closure between A and B. Nothing between C and D. I switched it to lights. Now we have closure between C and D. So C and D are lights. A and B is your ignition. It's still closed between A and B. C and D is open. That's correct. Now we're off. Now we should be open on both A and B and C and D. Okay, so A and B, the top two, left and right, is our ignition on and off. So on the wires, that's between red and red with a black stripe. So now I just need to know which one is 12 volts and which one is sending 12 volts to the board. The one that is sending 12 volts after ignition is on, that's the one I need to tie into for my on switch for the winch. So A and B, the top two pins there. That is these top two wires here, red and, whoops, solid red with red and black stripe right there. So those top two pins there, top two pins right there are A and B. So whichever one is sending voltage, which I'm guessing it is this solid red, if black and red here is sending power after ignition is made back to the module, the computer, that's the one I need to tie this red wire in right here from my switch there for the winch. So okay, so I found that red, so we got A and B for the ignition. A is our 12 volt supply. Red with a black stripe is our return. So our return from the ignition switch and supply to the computer. So this is where we need our activation power switch for the what's that called? For the winch.
like to use these heat shrink with solder in them. These things are so nice. So you splice your wires together. So I have my red power ignition wire from the switch, from the winch switch, into the ignition switch of the quad. So I have those two, and then there, so I just splice that in, just like that. Can you see that? So I'm spliced in here, just like that. And then what you do is you take a heat gun, you heat this up, and there's glue inside this heat shrink that watertight seals everything. And then there's a ring of solder in there that melts and solders the wires together. Just an all-around really nice setup. Works, so we'll toss it all in this conduit. I'm going to trim this back to about right there. Okay, just like that. Grab some tape. All the way up. This will keep those wires nice and protected. Now we can add this back into there. Goes back in there, just like that. See how this bar is at such a steep angle here? I need to get that down lower. So I'm going to have to figure that out. But I think right now I can at least push some snow around. So let's see what that looks like. Okay, it's the next day. As you can see, some of the snow's melting off. Figured we'd get a better shot of everything we did to this quad here. She looks pretty good. She runs good too. So you see new tires all the way around. We have new front brakes. We have our winch. We do have the snow plow for it, but I don't obviously have it hooked up right now. New battery, and then just some padding. Got all our wires bundled up here. Start relay. And this is the switching relay for the winch. All the wires in conduit, nicely wrapped. Let's go ahead and start her up. Starts up cold, starts up very nice. See, we have our winch switch, which we can come over here. Something to keep in mind on these 2011 Arctic Cat 450s. I don't know which all models do this, but in neutral, the RPM limiter is activated. So you're gonna hear it when I rev it out here. You're gonna hear it sputter, almost like it's in a limp mode. It just does that in neutral to protect the engine from being over revved. There we are in reverse. Use our override switch.
in, four-wheel drive works. Four-wheel drive up, and then lock it in. Low also works. Pretty nice ride. Got a storage box. Well, that's it for the red Articat 2011 450 fuel injected. Thanks for following along on all 3 episodes. If you would, like and subscribe, I'd appreciate it. Catch you next time.